Amazing hackers, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. So first of all, I have my red Haggis here. Sorry if I put him away during the video, but he wanted to say hi. Say hi, Haggis. Hey people, how are you doing? Today I'm going to read some of my old bug bounty reports. I'm not going to read anything like identifiable, of course. I'm just going to tell you guys about what I found because I love going through all of this shit. I'm very honest about this. I don't do a whole lot of bug bounties myself. I usually just teach people to do bug bounties because I don't want the money. I don't want the fame for this shit anymore. So I don't give a shit. I don't do bug bounties myself. I do teach people to do bug bounties and they do sometimes find bugs. So that is why I still feel like I'm qualified to talk about this. Even if you don't think that, these are real bugs that I have reported in the past. So I'm going to be talking about them. Let's go through them one by one. So in this one wasn't accepted. So I'm not going to go through this one, not this one either. This one was accepted. It's possible to register for an event before the event was made active. So basically, this was a low vulnerability on something that wasn't a paid program. This was a vulnerability disclosure program. Basically, what I tried to do some exploration here. And through the exploration, basically, I found a page which was on Google, I believe, through some very simple Google dorking. I found this page where you could register for an event that hadn't even started yet, that registration. So I reported that low. There was nothing that came of that. Then we have a XSS present in the blah, blah, blah section of the website. This was hidden very, very deep within the website. This was a high vulnerability, gave me 500 euros. What I did was I just tested every single thing that I could find with a script that I had. I had a list of different tag vectors that I would try on these fields. I will paste that list in the description. Let me copy that list over so I have that, and I'll paste that list in the description for you guys. Oh, let's add new note. There we go. That way you could add that as well. Now, what that is, that list is not going to work for you anymore because that is calling a script from XSS Hunter. That's my script. So if you execute that script, you're not going to find anything. You need to adjust these attack vectors. Remember that. I might even remove my script. I'm not sure yet. But basically, what I tried was I looked at the website. The website itself didn't have anything. Then the profile section had a section where you could make objects. On those objects, you could bind sub-object. I'm going to take the example of a user here. This is not real. So for example, you have a user. A user can have a collection of knives. And on that collection of knives, you can have a sub-object of a knife, for example. And I found that on the title of the table of those knives, there was a vulnerability, a cross-site scripting vulnerability. That is because on tables in those first table rows, you often find cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. This was an old PHP website, so there wasn't really any centralized, how do I put this? There wasn't any centralized sanitization on this website. But it's important to know that cross-site scripting, there is no real secret to it. The real secret to cross-site scripting comes from the fact that you need to test every single parameter because a defender might have put a sanitization or a filter or whatever on your input, but have they put that on every single parameter? And often exploration through things like, for example, the Internet Archive or Google Dorking or GitHub, often those explorations can help you find parameters which might not be active on the website itself immediately. Or you might find like the test version of a website or whatever. You know, just try a little bit of exploration. Just what you see directly in front of you isn't always what is there. Then I found an XSS attack vector, and this is a nice attack vector. I'm also going to put this one in the response because there are different bypasses in here. Basically, what I tried is you can see HTML encoding in there. I've tried to put capital image letters. So basically, since it's an HTML tag, it doesn't matter if I put it in capital or in lowercase. So I tried capital with a attribute sources X to get a broken image. Then I did that again because source X is filtered out. And the second time, what I did was I URL encoded it and I put the attribute source also in capitals. Then on error, in the on error, I have put a less than sign. Why? Because the less than sign would be filtered out on error. And basically on error would be left because I have on error less than or. Remove that less than, you get on error, then again URL encoding, and I did the same for confirm. This was a self exercise initially. Now, what I did to get a proof of concept for that was I was actually able to find that there was a csrf token on that field. So you had your own account section, nobody else could see your account section, and there was a section in there which had this active self XSS. There was a csrf token on that, but they didn't check that csrf token. So chaining this, you're able to insert your XSS attack vector through a csrf attack and potentially do things like steal the account, etc. So that was one that I also reported. Then moving on, we got an IDOR. It's possible to download a file that is not from your organization. That was a medium IDOR that was not accepted because there was not enough impact on there. Oh no, sorry, that was my fault. So basically what I did on this is I tested incorrectly. I tested with organizational charts that were basically mine. So the object was an organizational chart. You don't really know a lot about that, but I tested with my own organizational chart and not with others in this case. So a really dumb stuff from myself. Then we have in this one, where is it? Is this one? So basically there was an XSS issue, and this is a duplicate, an XSS in the blah blah tab under my tab. So basically you had a tab that showed your own stuff, and on that tab, under a specific tab, there was an XSS active. They knew about that. Very simple XSS tag vector. Once again, I will put that in the description below. So that's the third attack vector that I'm going to be talking about. A few bypasses that I have in here. I use an eval. The eval, basically, what I did was I used an input tag. I used some encoding on that input tag. And then I did the on focus. Basically, when you click on that field, is going to eval and atop this ID. Basically, it also has an identifier as a basically, it also has an identifier. In this case, if you atop and eval that, that would come into a confirm, and it has an autofocus on that input. So basically, it would always trigger. That is the whole idea. The impact there was rather limited since I wasn't able to do a whole lot with this, but they already knew about that. Then we have a duplicate stored XSS, same program, different tab, basically. Then we have a duplicate. User account roles do not get propagated until the user logs out and logs in again. Wasn't a whole lot of impact in here. Basically, if I took away a role from somebody, they wouldn't lose that role until they logged out. Not a big deal. Basically, what Vina low was a duplicate, not even worth it. So then we go on to an informative here. It is possible to create an blah, 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 where there are no allocated tickets. Basically, you would need a ticket to create the other object. You could create the other object without a ticket. So basically, there wasn't a whole lot of impact. The impact was rather limited in this case. So that was an informative. Then we have a high duplicate. it is possible to buy more of an object from a account than initially allocated. So I have an account, I allocate that you can buy 100 objects, but I could buy more than 100 objects by following a very specific flow. I just changed the quantity. So basically, I just went into the request, I changed the quantity to more, and that was it. The check was front end, not back end. But again, unfortunately, duplicate, because that was a high one. Then we have an informative. The user with no rights to see something from a project can still see that anyway. Not a whole lot of issue according to the program. They said no impact, so that's perfectly fine. We move on to another duplicate. It is possible to view the details of a blah, 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 when a user should not be able to do so. So basically, a user with no rights to do something had the right to do that anyway. Not good. All right, let's move on to another one. We have an accepted risk. It is possible to view unpublished pictures. That was an accepted risk. Perfectly fine. That happens. Next up, we move to, let's go to this one. This is another duplicate. Deactivated. The user can do any action except for login via API calls, meaning if I have deactivated a user and they still had their token, it wouldn't deactivate their token. No big problem there, not a huge one. Then we move on to, let's move on to this one. Then we have another medium right here, a few crappy ones that I reported just for testing. I was testing integrity itself as well, of course. Now we have one that's a medium that is 250 euros. Non-admin user with HR access can read blah, blah, blah. So basically, this was a non-admin user added to a specific group, and they could read the data from other companies. That is not great, of course. So that was a 250 vulnerability. That was a nice one. Then I read the manual. The manual told me it was not possible to deactivate a user account of a specific type. I tried it. I reported it. I got 125 euros for it. Easiest money I ever made in my entire life. Next medium, 250 euros. User can access blah, blah, blah of an object he or she does not belong to. So an object had files, I can tell you that. And basically the thing with files was that these files were all grouped. You had files belonging to an object, but a file is a file. And basically, if a user had access to one type of file, they had access to all the types of files. That's how the application viewed it. 250 euros for that one. Next up, we move to another one. This is a vulnerability disclosure program. One sec. Here we go. Peep also wants to say hi. The vulnerability disclosure programs do not pay any bounty, but I got a 250 euro bonus for this. It was a critical. Basically, I was able to find a website through Dorking that I was able to search on. I was able to find personal data, so PII data. And that is, of course, always a critical here in Europe. So I was able to get rewarded for that, even though they didn't normally reward stuff. Then we have 150 euros. Prospect user with no access to users module can blah, blah, blah through blah, blah, blah. So basically a user with no access to something had access to it anyway. The way I test all of these things is I write a matrix telling me what user type has access to what type of functionality. I test according to that, and basically I report anything that is out of the ordinary. That's how we go about these things. Sometimes they're duplicates, sometimes they're informative, sometimes they don't have any impact at all. But it's these types of bugs that you will usually find in my account. IDORs, broken access control issues, PII data leakage, again, broken access control issues. This one got me 750 euros. User can request something for other users. So this is basically an application where you have different users. If a user wants something, for example, let's say that they want a car, they have to request a car. They can request it for other users. Now you might be saying requesting a car, that's not that impactful. I cannot say exactly what they are requesting, of course, but it was impactful enough to reward me a high $750. Next, IDOR, it is possible to download a file by calling the file path to the endpoint. This was for a different type of object. So if I didn't have access to example for contacts, again, stupid example, but if I didn't have access to it, I could just call upon my file endpoint and get those contact informations anyway, because it will make a PDF out of anything. So another 250 euros there. Next up, let's move on to another broken access controls, IDORs, stuff like that. More IDORs. This one here is basically a broken access control on an object property level, because you're able to change the account type of an account to a different one that costs more money. So that was 125 euros worth. That's another nice one that I got there. What else did we get? So we get a 250 euro high IDOR. IDOR, it is possible for a for user to confirm the blah 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 in a card without the proper role. So basically there are objects within a card. So you go to a web shop, you have objects in your card. A user could confirm objects in the card without having a role. Basically, cards are account-wide, not for you alone. Everybody within your company has that card, and you could confirm that even though you had no rights to it. 250 euro high because this was on a tier 3 URL. Basically, this program had different tiers, and every single tier gives you a specific amount for a low, medium, or high. CAPTCHA bias, a very simple one. What do we have here? Enumerating all users. That's of course a bad one. This is a low one that I got paid $50 for. User of type blah 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 can view assets that are assigned to nobody by navigating to the URL directly. So this is another IDOR low $50. Like it's low because this object specifically didn't have that much impact. They said the impact is rather low because usually these will be assets that are unassigned for a short time and then will be assigned to someone. That was why it's been downgraded to a low. We got another 250 euro IDOR here. A user can see contact details. So basically contact details, I can tell you that easily because that can be in any program, but basically user was able to see contact details that they're not supposed to see. Guess what that is? IDOR. What was that? There was basically, you couldn't go directly to those contacts. But again, I told you guys about different endpoints, and this application had an endpoint that could print out specific information about objects. And if you call that endpoint, you could see information that you were not supposed to be able to see. User can register under the age of 18. That was for a website that had a age lock on it. Then we have another IDOR. User can edit details of a account he should not be able to see with a function disabled. So basically, you have a user. That user has a specific function that they can execute. If you take that function away, they can still change information through importing CSV data. That's an attack vector. A lot of people will overlook that CSV data stuff. Something that you should be paying attention to, any type of importing or any type of data ingested that is not directly through the application, for example, through an API. It is possible for a user to delete other users' items without the correct role. That was a very medium one, tier 3, $125. You can see that a lot of these tickets follow the same kind of trend here. where it's like, oh, you get a little bit here, you get a little bit there, $100 for a broken access control. User who cannot view account details and the UI can do an API call to grab them. You also see that often. There was no severity to this according to them, but they still give the bonus. That was really nice of them. Then at 250 euro IDOR, it is possible to get an overview of items not paid by the user with that option disabled. So basically, if I did not have access to contacts, I could still see all of the contacts through a specific endpoint that I could call. Then we have another broken access control, and we have a user with low rights cannot do something specifically. And that's about it, the ones that I wanted to go through. So I hope those were a little bit useful to you. I hope you learn a little bit from the issues that I have reported, because broken access control, it is something that is very, very, very prevalent. It's very prevalent and it will always be. It's just that if you want to look for it, you really have to look for it deep, and you can see that in these business to business applications, there's more than enough IDORs to be had. If you're interested in IDORs, if you want to know more, I'm going to guide you to a playlist on my channel about broken access control, and I'm going to put a link in the description below for a course about broken access control with a coupon in it. That's a really interesting one in my opinion, because I go through all of the tools with labs that you can actually follow along. So that's kind of the intention there. If you're not interested in that at all, don't worry, just watch the broken access control playlist, and it should already help you quite a lot with these types of bug bounty targets. Hope this helped, my friends. Hope you learned a lot. If you have any ideas, comments, if I forgot anything, let me know in the comments below, because I'm interested in all of this feedback. That really helps me know what you guys want to learn. Last of all, if you're interested in a one-on-one conversation with me, I'll also put an email in the description box below. Sometimes that's with me, sometimes that's with one of my staff, but you'll always be helped personally and with a plan that is made to your goals. That's kind of what our goal is here. You'll get a free 30-minute conversation. We'll talk about what the best plan is for you, and don't worry too much about payments. I'm not interested in picking up your wallet clean. You can pay like in sections, you can pay later. All of that is no problem. We can get out of that. For me, it is just important to know I am helping you guys the way that you need to be helped, because of course I can give general advice, but a doctor also doesn't give general advice. A doctor looks at everybody's situation independently, and I wish I could do the same, but unfortunately I can't. Once again, this is not too much about the money for me, because teaching is fine, it's fun. It's a few bucks here and there extra. But if you really work in the industry, if you're really like, for example, a developer or whatever, you can make so much more money. Like, and the thing is, I have a customer as well, 8 hours per day. That's solid income, you know? So the thing is with teachers, they often say that they don't pay teachers enough. I think it's true. They do need to have like a financial incentive, but I also think it's important that they have something coming from themselves where they want to make the world a better place. Like, it shouldn't only be about money. I hope I can bring out that message. If you need help, reach out. I hope we can help you. We'll see. We'll have a short conversation. If we can't help you, I'm also completely gonna be honest about that, because I don't want you to be fucked over either. That's the thing. There's no advantage from me for just taking your money and not giving you any results. We try to give you something actionable at the end. So if you're interested, contact below, playlist below, all of the attack vectors I used below. Adjust them to make your own attack vectors, of course. Use your own scripts and shit like that. But just go out there and kill it. That's all I can say. Thanks so much for watching, amazing hackers. Haggis, peep, we all say bye. See you later.